Hey everyone, this is Dr. Baffa, and today we learn about hang power snatches and how you can use them in your training. We're going to be watching Lesman Paredes of Colombia doing some hang power snatches just a few days before his world record snatch at the 2021 World Championships, where he did 187 as a 96 kilo athlete. There's no guarantee if you start doing hang power snatches, you'll snatch a world record, but there's also no guarantee you won't snatch a world record. Let's check it out. Starts out with some calisthenics. He's going to do some front squatting beforehand. This is only about 4 days out from when he actually competes. So it's a little curious that he's doing hang power snatch, but we'll get into that later. We reached out to him and asked him why he was doing it here, why he likes this movement. 70 kilos on the bar. Going to go a little bit heavier. He actually goes, what I think, kind of heavy in the front squat. Ketomar of Venezuela here, also doing a hang power snatch. Watch this, very snappy 140. Look very snappy lifting, as you would expect from Ketomar. We'll watch him side by side with Paredes in a minute, but right now, here's a 150 power snatch hang by Ketomar. He's going just above the knee, accelerates immediately, and then drives the bar overhead and moves under it. Look at the pull here. So he stops right above, at the top of the knee, and then drives into the floor, drives the hips up into the bar, propels the bar up, and then moves under it. Watch his wrists. He really lets the wrists fall back. Some athletes, this is how they catch the bar. Some, it doesn't work for them. For him, obviously, it works. 215 on the bar for Paredes. That's as heavy as he goes here. A little bit shaky in the angle because Gregor was filming under really tight conditions given all the COVID restrictions. That out of the way, Paredes goes to hang power snatch. 70 kilos, very casual, 100 kilos. So why is he doing these here so close to competition? According to Paredes, he uses these to adapt to training after the trip. So long flights, he says his back gets tight or a little weak due to the hours of flights and stopovers. Here's 130. So in his own words, he says his back tends to be a little weak due to the hours of flights and stopovers, and this exercise makes me gain back stiffness, coordination, and speed. Here is 150 kilos. Watch this second rep. Even though his shoulders are moving behind the bar, look at how straight the bar's line is. So knees out of the way, brings the knees back, hips driving up, up, up. And look at how straight that bar is. We'll see why I think that is in just a minute, but look at how straight the bar is, travels back just slightly. Beautiful bar path, beautiful angle here to observe just how close he keeps it that whole time. Goes to 160 kilos, which he says this is his PR in this lift. He says heavy training or heavy lifts are saved for competition. Most of his training weights are going to be more moderate to work on technique. So watch again, hangs it below the knees, unlike Ketomar. Knees get back, and then he's still driving through the floor, drives the hips forward, but he's driving up. He's propelling up, and that bar stays close, and the bar path is vertical the whole time. Is it a power snatch? It's a pow snatch. That's a pretty high catch in my view. Maybe just a hair below parallel, but somebody as tall as Paredes, pretty impressive. Here's 150 and 160 side by side, and you can see what he's doing to keep that bar close. The hips are coming forward, but really he's propelling up. He is not banging into the bar to move that bar out. He's propelling up by driving the feet down into the platform, and I'm going to suggest that he's also using the wrist, or emphasizing the high pull through the wrist in the way that he does his pulls later. These two athletes side by side. Very different builds, obviously. Ketomar much shorter, Paredes much taller, longer-limbed athlete. We're also doing slight variations on this. Ketomar above the knee or just at the top, and Paredes below the knee. What's interesting, though, despite the differences in proportion, despite the differences in movement, if you watch and time from when they're at the top of their extension, so right there, we've synced the top of the extension, their turnover and catch and punch overhead is very, very similar, despite their different body styles. I think this really speaks to the idea that you need to do a few things right, no matter what your body style is. And if it's a fast turnover, you can get away with a lot. Here's 160 in pulls. There's a couple sets of these. Watch this pull in slow motion. Knees back. Again, it looks a lot like the power snatch, hang power snatch, But here, he does something different. Instead of driving the shoulders back, he focuses on driving the elbows up. And look at that wrist. Look at how far over the bar, how vertical that wrist is. That is absolutely fantastic. That's what you should be aiming for if you're emphasizing that really vertical, close pull. We'll see something similar. Another set here with 160. We're going to go in and focus on those elbows and what his shoulders are doing. So hips up and into the bar, propels the bar up, very straight line. And then look at the top, driving the elbows up. The elbows are well over the bar at the top here. And even though we can't see it, I would argue that the wrists are over that bar as well as they were in the previous set. Again, this is it. First training just to sort of get the rust off. Here's his 160 next to his 180. Now, he snatched 187 here for a world record. We're going to look at this pull compared to the lift. I chose the 180 because it wasn't a maximal effort here, which I think means it's going to be maybe a little more representative of technique. Top of his pull, wrists over the bar in both instances, but we'll see how they differ. Obviously, he has to turn over. In the pull, again, he really emphasizes the high elbows and wrists. Pulls, they should look like the snatch to the extent that they can, but if you're focusing on something else, you might want to exaggerate it in the pull. Kedamar with his hang power snatch and his snatch 177. This was his best snatch in the competition here. Very similar speed under the bar. We'll watch it again with it timed so that their full extension is synced up. And the turnover and punch, very similar, even though one is hang power, one is full snatch, and one is significantly heavier. So with the hang power snatch, again, you want it to look as much like the movement on that platform as possible, but there are going to be differences. But look at his extension, look at his finish. He too keeping the wrists over the bar. For Kedamar, he is pretty aggressive in his hop back. But because he also moves the bar back, he gets away with it and lets the wrist fall back in the catch. Here's Paredes with 160 and 187. And again, this was a world record. And you see, same thing. He's doing very similar movements. Synced up again here. At this time, synced up so that the top of the pull lines up. And despite the differences in weight, despite the differences in catch height, very similar speed in terms of turning over that weight, getting under the bar. Slow motion, times that they align with the bar accelerating under the knees. And by the time the bar is up to speed, the finish, very similar. Again, note the wrist over the bar and then aggressively moving under and punching overhead, supporting that weight on the big muscles of the upper back and shoulders. Going to take a look now at these two athletes side by side. Despite the differences in height, different ways they are built, obviously Kedamar gets to the second pull sooner. He's a shorter athlete and it's less weight. But when you look at the extension and turnover, it's very similar, and Paredes, despite being so much taller, might be moving a little bit faster. So here's 77, 87 again. This time we give Paredes a little bit of a head start because, again, I want to line them up so that they're at the top of their extension. Boom, right there at the same time. And now watch them under the bar. And I think you might see that Paredes actually gets there to his bottom and overhead a little bit quicker. Two different athletes, very different body styles, but they do the basics the same. That is a fast turnover and aggressive punch under the weight. Even slower this time synced up so that they move off the floor at the same time. And again, you'll see Kedamar into the hip pocket earlier. Does hang, I think, a little bit longer at the top than Paredes. Paredes really gets to the top and then, whereas Paredes, all elastic energy, kind of whips himself around faster, maybe due to the fact that the longer arms help him move that way. Long arms in the snatch, they can help you out. Anybody can snatch well. That's going to do it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to check out all our other videos on YouTube and on Patreon. Thanks so much to our Patreon supporters. If you like this video, head over to patreon.com/allthingsgym and consider becoming a subscriber. Subscribers make all this content possible and get access to tons more training footage, deep dives into various topics, athlete and coach interviews, and more. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.